Welcome to this event. This is called the Rainbow Bridge to Joy. And this is the name of the event because the rainbow really signifies unity of things that are a different expression of the same thing. So every color is a different expression of light. And as those come together, we get the beautiful effect of the rainbow that I feel can take us into so many different worlds. And in this case, can take us into the joy that comes from truly recognizing and truly expressing ourselves and coming into that deep space of communication. Let me see 1 second. I'm still navigating all of this. Okay. So I just want to say, like, just to start out, please feel free to write something in the chat. I hope that that is a thing. It seems like it is. Um, yeah. Yeah, okay. So so I just want to take 10 minutes to focus on these questions. So if you have a journal or a piece of paper or something like that, I'm gonna set a timer for 10 minutes and I'd like to just have a focus space for these questions. So the first question is, what does joy look like to you right now? So that can really go into, how do you feel like you express joy on a daily basis? How do you feel like your life aligns with joy? What activities do you do, or things that bring you joy in this point of your life, in this season? And how did that look like to you as a child? So I'm gonna set a timer now and we can go into that. Okay, so that's the end of the 10 minutes, the 10-minute activity. Um, yeah, so if you want to write about how you felt or if there's anything special that you'd like to share, feel free to do it in the chat or to unmute yourself. Welcome, Yanira. Nice to have you here. So we just did a 10-minute activity reflecting on these questions. So if you want, you can do that now as well, or you can do it later. Um, Hi. So so I really want to talk about what joy is. So not like from a textbook definition, because there are lots of definitions of joy. Um, but from a sense of what joy means to each of us. So like that activity that we just did, you can do that for a full hour if you wanted to. You can do that every day for a month or for a year. I think that joy is a topic that's so much more profound than how life normally. Hi, Esther. If you guys want to write anything in the chat about how you feel so far, if you have any questions, please do that. Um, so yeah, like I think that joy is a really profound topic. And so in a society that really becomes focused on happiness and like this false sense of happiness, like, oh, once you have all of these accomplishments, then you'll be happy. There's always an X and then a Y, rather than a sense of joy which you can activate and tap into at any moment. There is no condition to it. And so I think, this slide talks about that, how we oftentimes learn to devalue what brought us joy as children, because it's like, oh, well, you're not going to make money with that. But that's not the point. It's not that everything in this life is about making money. It's about, I think that at some point we're going to realize that joy is also a form of energy, of currency that we exchange every time we go out into the world. And so even if you get a service from someone, or let's say you go to a restaurant and you go in there with a huge smile and you share a sense of joy that comes from your heart, you are giving the people at that restaurant something beyond money. You're giving money as well for the service, but you're also leaving an energy there. And I think that that's a really important part of life that we oftentimes don't talk about, or we don't value, or we see, oh yeah, like I can feel a sense of pleasure or joy when I accomplish this thing. But the reality is that if you want to accomplish anything, doing it from a place of joy will actually guarantee that you will get closer to that goal so much faster and in a way that's so much healthier to your body. So Very true, yeah. Um, so wait, okay, my screen's, like, all funky, okay. So, yeah, the main theme of this is that joy is free. You can access it at any time you want. Even when you're in really difficult situations, you can still find a way to access this, you know? And I think this is also a really big point that I wanted to touch is, growing up in a society that's really focused on appearances, yeah, and, like, this sense of, like, "Oh, yeah, I'm good," you know, "How are you?" You know, and it's, like, really fake. I think it actually takes away from the fact that joy comes from pain. Like, joy and pain work together, you know? And so you can actually experience a sense of joy from the painful experiences that you've had because there's a sense of heart opening that happens, you know, and the more we open our hearts, the more that we can feel of everything. And that means the more joy we can feel naturally because our capacity to feel is wider. And so those things that feel like they rip us apart, of course, are ripping us apart, and it's not necessarily a pleasant experience, but it's deepening our capacity to feel, and that's super powerful, and that's actually a really huge gift, you know? It's like, you go let's say you go to the gym and you train your muscles, you know, or you go and you do yoga or something and you stretch your body, you know, you stretch your muscles in some kind of way, you're generating some form of flexibility. And I think it's the same with emotions, you know, it's like the more that you feel those emotions and the more that you hold those difficult positions, at some moment you have this fluidity and flexibility in your body that you can also experience in an emotional sense. And I think that this, this very consumerist view of happiness is totally about what can the world give me rather than what can I give to the world, you know? And I think that there's so much genuine happiness that comes from giving, and we can really only give from a space when we're good, you know, when we feel like we're also taking care of ourselves. And yeah, okay, I'm just starting to ramble because this topic really excites me. So, yeah, so the idea that joy is not inherently free is an idea that has been programmed into us to manipulate and control us. Because if you think about the modern working system, you know, why do people do that? We're emotional creatures. Why do we do anything that we do is because in the deeper part of us, there's an emotional trigger, something is pulling us, you know? And so if you think about the modern working system, a lot of us feel like we have to work in this kind of structure because it's the only way. Otherwise, there's all this fear about survival. And there's this idea that at some point, if you go deep enough into that system, you'll experience a kind of happiness or a kind of joy or a kind of freedom. But it's not true. What will bring you joy is how you will live your life, you know? And I think that joy comes from making choices and doing things that bring us joy in our day-to-day life and our habits, you know? So, yeah, I think that the whole idea around joy or the idea that the pursuit or or making joy a priority is foolish, childish, you know? Like, anything that involves play or joyful energy normally is viewed as like, "Oh, no, that's really, you know, that's not logical, it's not rational," right? But it's so important to our health, it's so important to having this sense of clarity and balance, and, I think that it's a way that we can carry out our lives, you know? It's a place that we can live from rather than a place that we look to.
Yeah.
And so a lot of us have learned to numb ourselves, you know, in response to a world that can be pretty harsh, that can tend to be like, oh, joy? You want joy? Well, then you have to go party, you have to drink, you know, it's like joy is something that's reserved in this space that's not even healthy, you know, or it's seen as like hedonistic. But joy is actually like you can find joy when you're sweeping the floor, you can find joy when you're doing your laundry, you know, it's like you can find a sense of gratitude and groundedness within anything you do at any time. But since we're taught to numb ourselves, we can't actually, a lot of us have lost the capacity to access this simple joy or this simple gratitude of like, wow, I'm alive, I'm breathing, I have a roof over my head, I can see the sky, you know, I can eat something, I can drink something, like, to see life as a blessing rather than, "Oh, man," you know? Um, and I think that that's the thing. I think a lot of us have been taught to numb ourselves and to not see those things, you know, and to constantly look for like this grandiose view of something and that's going to bring the happiness, you know. But we see so many people who have loads of money and they don't find that joy because they don't know how to find that gratitude that both of you guys have talked about. And I think it's so fundamental to really to living from joy, you know, and not just looking for it. So I love this quote so much, and there are so many quotes about joy I love. There's another one by Khalil Gibran that I love a lot that talks about how joy and pain go together. And it's like the pain is the fire that burns the cup, and the joy is what you put inside of the cup. So this quote has a similar kind of theme. Joy and pain, they are but two arteries of the one heart that pumps through all those who don't numb themselves to really living. And I think it's exactly what you guys talked about, you know, like that joy of like, hey, I have bread, I have something to eat, I'm alive, I woke up this morning. That's living, you know, like that's real life. And all of the things that are constantly trying to be sold to us of like, oh, you need this if you want to find happiness. None of that is real, you know, you are the source of joy, and to have that communication with your body and to have that communication with life is absolutely fundamental to really living a harmonized life, you know? So, colors, I wanna talk about colors in the sense of joy. So colors are the children of light. Colors are different expressions of light that are refracted in different ways. So they're kind of almost like an optical illusion, you know, because certain animals see certain colors and we see different ones. But light is the source of all life, you know, and so if you think of us as humans, we're all human beings, but we're all different, you know, and I think that the rainbow signifies this unity and the beauty of what happens when different things are unified, you know, so it's like we're all humans, but we're different expressions of humanity. And what happens when we come together? You know, so I think that the rainbow is a really big symbol of joy in action, you know, joy in community, joy in everyday life, creating a world from a space of joy. And so each color has a specific frequency, and our emotions do as well. You know, and so I think that joy is not to bypass any of our pain or any of our sadness. I think that joy comes just from embracing all of our emotions as expressions of light, as expressions of life, you know, just like the rainbow is different expressions of color, which is different expressions of light, you know. And so when we have this relationship with our emotions, we don't get angry at ourselves or judge ourselves when we feel angry, sad, upset, whatever kind of emotion that's a little bit heavier. We start to actually find a sense of joy for the fact that we can feel those things. Because the fact that we can feel means that we're alive. You know, and every emotion, just like every color, has its place, it has its function, it has its power, you know? And so I think that the rainbow teaches us not only how to unify with other people and other cultures and other ideas, but it teaches us how to unify with ourselves, you know, with the different parts of ourselves, with the different experiences that we've had, and to not only try to be one way all the time. You know, I think that that's another side effect of a culture that becomes very mental, very robotic, you know, it's like wants to put everything into a box. But light can't be put into a box. You know, light just shines. And in essence, we are also that, you know, and we have these different colors inside of us and all of us have experienced many different emotions, you know, and many different experiences and many different perspectives. And And I think to come into a place of unity is to feel a deep sense of peace and a celebration for all of the challenges that life will throw at us and all of the challenges that life has already thrown at us. Um, yeah, and to see what happens when we can bring all of our different emotions and all of our different contrasting aspects of ourselves together and really find deep acceptance and love for everything that life has to offer. Not only the joyful bright side, but the other side as well that feeds the joyful bright side. Sometimes when I've talked about this topic before, people have been like, "What do you mean find joy in the challenge? Like, what are you talking about?" And it's like, yeah, the challenge is the joy because life has it's like the mountain that you climb, you know, and the process of climbing the mountain is difficult at certain points. But there's a joy because you know that you're growing and you know that you're going beyond your comfort zone. So yeah, right now I just want to take like 3 minutes or something and just close your eyes. And you okay. No, I just got a notification on my computer. I was like, "Well, what happened?" So just take a few minutes and close your eyes and just observe the different colors of the rainbow and see if there's one that you naturally feel more drawn to, and if there's one that you kind of are like, I don't really like that one as much," or you kind of resist it in a way. So I'm just gonna set a timer and I'll let you guys know in a few minutes. Okay, so we're gonna end that little activity. And if there's anything that you'd like to share or write in the chat, please do. This is an activity that you can really kind of repeat in any moment, especially if you're in a moment where you feel like there's a lot of difficult emotions coming up, or maybe you don't feel a sense of clarity. You can visualize the rainbow and kind of see, okay, what color am I feeling right now? What color am I kind of drawn to? What color am I a little bit pushing away? And it's kind of like a really quick litmus test to get out of your mind of like, oh, I'm feeling this way. I'm thinking about this thing, you know, and the rational thing. And it's a really great way to just get into the body really fast and have a sense of clarity that comes from a deeper connection, you know, from a visualization and to feel those colors because colors have a really quick impact on our nervous system and just they make us feel, you know, it's inevitable. Um so yeah, these are just some questions for reflection that you can do in your journal. You know, is there a color that you felt particularly drawn to? How was that experience? Is there one that repels you or doesn't interest you? I'll put a few minutes. I'll put 3 minutes just to have a little time to reflect with this, and then we'll come back. So for people who, for example, struggle with anxiety or some sort of like lack of feeling calm,
Mhm,
oftentimes people would think, oh, you should turn to blue because blue gives you this sense of tranquility. But actually,
mhm.
for a lot of people who struggle with like intense anxiety, red helps them a lot because it helps them to reactivate their nervous system. And
Oh, okay.
red's a very grounding color. So yeah, it definitely has the side of intensity and like how it shows up in the world. But yeah, so we're gonna actually use so the color red, in the next activity we're gonna do, we're gonna work a little bit more with this color. And like the color that you tend to resist, we're gonna work with it in an intuitive art kind of practice. So yeah, so what I want to do, so in your case, Yanira, like maybe just as I said before, try to think about the emotions that you've been processing over the past year and what color do you think that that could represent for you or what color if you feel some sort of resistance or something is a little bit difficult for you to process even at this moment, what would that look like for you represented as a color? You know, so you can just look at the rainbow that's on the screen like, oh, just looking at it, you can be like, "Oh, okay, I feel really good about orange, but then blue is a bit like this," so you can start to play around with what you feel. So basically, I just want to take about 5 minutes, and if you have some crayons, do you guys have like colored pencils or crayons or something colorful that you could draw with? Okay, so if you have, just take a piece of paper and kind of go into a meditative state and connect with this color, So you feel this kind of resistance a little bit, or like in the case of Esther, oh, I feel like red's kind of harsh. And so there's a bit of like a resistance that happens there, And so imagine and feel more deeply into that resistance a little bit. And then allow yourself just to intuitively draw something, anything. It could be a blob, it could be a scribble, but just allow yourself to kind of flow with whatever comes through. And if you have an image that comes up that's related to this color, you can see that image in your mind and you can draw it out. But there's really no rules to this. So I'm going to set a 5-minute timer and I will let you guys know when it's up. And I'll do it on the screen so you guys can also kind of have an example. Okay, so that's the end of 5 minutes. Do any of you guys want to share anything?